thank you for coming to be with us at IE. You came in this morning from Amsterdam, correct?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your office. You started the office back in the 80s, and I'm sure you've seen lots of changes, not only in size, but in focus, and how you work at the office. Tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, when I started in 88, 89, the office was still very small. I started literally on the kitchen table, and clients were visiting that kitchen table, and in my living room I had 4 or 5 people working for me. So we started really small, and over the years we discovered that we had to expand, had to develop ideas around the way how we could collaborate with other parties, particularly because we were lucky to get quite early in the phase of Van Berkel and Bos, that was the first name of the office, quite large projects. So the Erasmus Bridge was one of the earlier projects.
Now, were these the result of competitions, or were they direct commissions that you received?
That was an internal competition within the city of Rotterdam between the city architect and myself. Okay. The politicians wanted to have a little bit more daring project, and we had to work with unbelievable, at that time already 200 engineers within the city department to improve the quality of the design. So I learned very quickly to collaborate with others, and that meant that I, from the beginning onwards, was very excited about the way how we could find ways to troubleshoot in a way design. But then in the late 90s we discovered that our process became a little bit linear in the way of how we collaborated, and for that reason wanted to experiment more with the network organizational model, and for that reason changed fully the organization of the office through UN Studio. And it had a full change through the way how we organize ourselves, how we work with other parties, how we would that also set it up, also a whole theory around the way how the concept of the architect had to change according to his way of working with new techniques, another form of imagination he needed to work with. And that meant that it had an incredible effect of how we developed our work.
So tell me, at one phase you were working with other collaborators. Tell me a little bit if those collaborators have enlarged, because I know even from the beginning you relied on people in other fields, in art history, in sociology, engineers. Has that expanded? And tell us a little bit about the influence of technology.
Yeah, I've always liked that idea of collaborating and maybe connecting it a bit to Latour's philosophy of networking and the actors in the network. But that idea of the actor in the network is of course the most important. Who is the person you work with, and what kind of knowledge you can exchange with the actors in the network. And for that reason we moved slowly away from the network practice, as we argue, towards more the knowledge-based practice. And that's where we are in right now, whereby we might sometimes introduce a fashion designer, Victor and Rolf, sometimes people I talk to, or Marcel Wanders, or sometimes a social scientist, or someone who's interested in new forms of communication. Computational techniques be used in many different fields, in the film industry for instance. I'm really interested in learning from all these different fields in order to improve maybe ways of working and techniques of design.
So what would you tell schools of architecture, what would you tell students? Because obviously your practice has evolved and knowledge comes in many different formats from many different places. Where do you see architectural education going?
I joked today in my seminar lecture, I said, in the future students will organize the professors more than the professors will organize the students. And that is simply already happening with me, with my classes I give at Harvard, for instance. Students, they watch up me, they say to me, Ben, would it not be nice, because we are doing also another seminar with Sanford Quint, that you join us maybe, and that we can collaborate with a project we could share, and we would like to have workshops among that idea related to your own brief. But can we find new ways of collaborating? And what I'm arguing towards students today is develop your own talent. Try to improve your own way of imagining what architecture could be in the future. Think more about the iPhone phase, because architecture stays sometimes a bit in the Walkman phase. And would it not be possible to learn more from the creative industry, for instance? Look at these business models. I do believe that you should not be afraid of being an architect who knows also how to organize oneself. Because my argument has been always that if you could find a way to be much more compact in the way how you organize yourself, your own life, maybe on the one hand, but also your practice, then you would have much more time for design. And most of the architects have not that tendency. They have always that tendency to design after 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they start designing, or Sunday afternoons. So I believe architects should, in the future, invent more around the way how one can share knowledge and make architecture much more responsible with that and more intensive, and also take in that consideration also social and political values you can bring into architecture, so that it's not only pure form driven alone anymore, or iconographically driven alone. It needs to have a position.
And Van Berkel, thanks for joining us here at IE School of Architecture and Design. And your lecture this morning was great, and we're looking forward to the lecture this afternoon.
Thank you.